Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. We're going to continue doing our note taking we've been working on off of YouTube. The other day we were going over different stuff about the Islamic empires, the early rise of Muslim control of the Middle East, and we also talked about the major split between the two main Islamic groups that developed, the Sunni and the Shia. Now, what I would like to do is I want to go ahead and talk about a few of the different Islamic dynasties that come around over the next few hundred years. And we're going to be really summing up a lot of information on just a few slides, but I think you'll get the gist of it. So, I want to talk about the Abbasid dynasty. So, what ends up happening is the ruling group after those first four caliphs are a group of people called the Umayyads. And the Umayyads are way more favorable to Muslims that were from the Arabian Peninsula. So, once they've captured all of these lands all across the Middle East, all across North Africa, even as far away as Spain, the Arabian Muslims are treated a lot better. So, what happens is a lot of the other people groups get together and they're going to overthrow the Umayyad Caliphate. They're led by a guy, his name is Abu al-Abbas, and he's going to start the new caliphate, and becomes known as the Abbasid dynasty, and they're going to last for 300-ish years, roughly. Now, what's also interesting is he's going to have his dynasty based in an area we talked about earlier in the school year back in our first unit, back in Mesopotamia, which we know is the modern day nation of Iraq. So he's going to move the capital city to a place called Baghdad, which is one of the world's great cities for a long time, and it's still one of the larger cities in the world today, although it's been affected by war for several decades now. This is in Iraq on the Tigris River. Now, the Abbasid dynasty is going to make a major change in the Islamic empires. The reason, or the way this change happens is there starts to become, throughout the Islamic empires, and even in the religion Islam itself, you start to see a Persian influence. Remember, this is the area Persia had controlled for a long time, and a lot of the people here consider themselves Persian. So you start to see just as much of a Persian influence as you see an Arab one, which is really interesting change that takes place. Now, what's going to happen is once they get into the 11th century or so AD, this area is going to get taken over by someone else, and this people group is called the Turks. And you've probably heard of the Turks because of the nation of Turkey, but the Turks do not originally come from Asia Minor. These people are called the Seljuk, I think is how you pronounce it. They come from like the Stans area, the Central Asian nations we've talked about, and they're going to come over, and they have a very, very effective military. And they are going to start conquering large portions of the Islamic Empire. They are nomads. We all know what nomad means. They go from place to place. But once they get into the Islamic Empire, they are going to settle down some. When they do take it over, though, they do something very interesting. They kind of say, all right, yeah, we're taking over, but we kind of want to just continue what you're doing. We're going to be in charge of it. So they capture Baghdad, and what they do is they keep the caliph, but they make him like a religious figurehead. So the caliph is still a thing, but it has no real power. It's like kind of like the king or queen of England. Like, they really don't have any power. For my British people out there, I apologize, but you know it's true. So what they do is the lead Turkish guy is going to create a position called the holder of power. This is referred to as the Sultan. If you've ever seen Aladdin, or if you've just like seen movies based in this time period, you know what a Sultan is. But a Sultan is basically the guy that has all of the real power and control. Even though the Caliph is still a thing, it's restricted to ceremonial and religious duties now. So the Turks are going to rule for a couple hundred years and be the dominant force in the Islamic world. And that's going to change, though, when this group of people are going to come from China called the Mongols, led by a guy named Genghis Khan. And we are going to extensively talk about that in the next unit. And to this day, it's possible that more people were killed in this conflict than any other, like including World War II. But the thing is, so many people died, we don't really have a way of knowing how many people died. It's pretty shocking. Anyways, so that's the Turks. The Turks come to power, and a group of Turks are going to, and this is after a couple hundred years, they're going to be creeping closer and closer towards Asia Minor. They are led by a guy named Osman. All right, so Osman is going to overthrow, and they've been there for a while, but after a couple hundred years, he's going to overthrow the last remnants of the Roman Empire. If you remember, the Byzantine Empire, who was the Eastern Roman Empire, they're still holed up in Constantinople. And basically for 1,000 years, maybe a little less than that, their area and sphere of influence has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until they pretty much just control Constantinople and a little bit of land outside of it. And what's going to happen is 1453 AD, the Turkish forces will actually take over Constantinople, and they will create, no, not Turkey, they create the Ottoman Empire. The nation of Turkey didn't actually come around until the 20th century after World War I. We're not going to get to that. That's a little bit of something we cover in 8th grade, but the Ottoman Empire is going to be formed during this time, and the Ottoman Empire is going to be around for a long time. Did you know the United States, we actually fought a war against the Ottoman Empire? So this is an ancient empire that lasts into the modern age. This is also, as we said, the fall of Rome. The Ottoman Empire is based on several things. They have a very advanced navy for the time, and they are also one of the first adopters of gunpowder and gunpowder-based weapons. So they had very, very effective cannons, and they're going to control areas in the Middle East, but they also expand pretty far into Europe. Like they'll control Greece for times. They even move into Austria, and they try to attack Vienna once or twice as well. So they have an enormous swath of territory, and they will control large portions of the Mediterranean, especially the eastern Mediterranean Sea, for quite a long period of time. Alright, so we've gone over the Abbasid Dynasty, we went over the Turks, we went over the Ottoman Empire. It's probably enough for just one video, so my last thing I want to say is this is basically everything you see colored in is areas that the Ottoman Empire controlled. So at their peak, they had every area that's not white on the map, which is just a significant amount of territory. It covers lots of North Africa. You're in the Middle East. So if you are descended from almost any Mediterranean country, you might have ancestors that were part of the Ottoman Empire. So we're talking Egypt, Libya, Algeria, a lot of the Balkan areas, Austria and Hungary, Turkey, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Arabia. Tons and tons of countries I haven't even listed yet were controlled by the Ottomans at some point. They're one of the dominant world powers. Alright, that's all for now. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day when you're watching this, or night, who knows, and have a good one.